morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on into 1TS Daily here at One True Sports. How's it going? I'm your host, Zack Heydorn. What's going on? Happy Friday. Boy, it's been a busy week. Our first week here doing this show, 1TS Daily, and it's been an absolute blast. Thanks to everybody who's filing in to watch the show here on YouTube. Thanks for everybody who's filing in on Twitter. Appreciate you, and thank you for all the support this week. We got a ton to get to today. A big weekend ahead in professional wrestling, and some stuff to review in the rearview mirror as well. If it's your first time checking out this show, hi, I'm Zack Heydorn. I'm your host. I am the founder of Brass Ring Media. If you want to check out more of my content over there, we have a YouTube channel. Go over there and check it out. It's free. Just search Brass Ring Media on YouTube and subscribe. We've got long form pro wrestling analysis all week long, so you're definitely not gonna want to miss it. It jives and lays in perfectly with this show. So definitely check that out. I'm also the author of Stunning, The Wrestling Artistry of Steve Austin. That book came out on May 17th. So fun to have it out. If you guys haven't picked up a copy, hopefully you do. This show is about the news. What's happening in wrestling right now? That's what we discuss. We discuss with you. And right now, the chats are open. We have both chats open. We got the live chat open. We've got super chats open. So I welcome everybody who's tuning in live to jump on in there and get your thoughts out there about all the topics, any topic that you want. If you want to ask a question, happy to take those and happy to answer those throughout the show. Liam is in there as well. He says here, morning to you, Zach, and afternoon from where I am. Yes. Good morning, Liam. Thanks so much for being here, man. Appreciate it. Good to have you here on the show. There you go. It's that easy, folks. Drop your questions in your chats, and the super chats are a big help. If you're able to do that and you're willing to make a contribution, we'll definitely make sure to read your question live on the air and put it up there in a cool color. Take your comment, same thing, but it helps the show tick and helps us keep doing what we're doing here at One True Sport. Have you become a member yet? You can do that too. OneTrueSport.com has all of the One True Sport membership tiers. There are a whole mess load of them. Lots of different options and at different price points for you to get in and consume more of what we do and what we're going to be doing here at One True Sport. So I encourage you, head over there right now. It's OneTrueSport.com. Cool. Enough of the plugs, right? Let's get to some wrestling talk. Big news kind of coming out of the Wrestling Observer today that I flagged as significant, not just in terms of like WWE and pro wrestling, but it's just a significant news story and the types of news stories that we want to keep tabs on here on a day-to-day basis with 1TS Daily. Rhea Ripley is not scheduled to return by SummerSlam, and that's per the Wrestling Observer this morning. An interesting turn of events, I think. And here's the thing. I want to just be completely transparent about the situation. It was never put out there that she would be back by SummerSlam. Like that was never a thing. Like that, hey, Rhea's going to be back by SummerSlam. That wasn't a thing. But I think like when news of her injury came out, it just didn't seem with the tone that WWE kind of handled the messaging that it was going to be this like crazy long injury either. They didn't treat it as, they didn't even treat it quite like CM Punk's injury where you knew that like he's going to be out for a long time. Part of that is she opted not to have surgery right away. So she's currently rehabbing the injury, which is a shoulder injury. And so I think that's part of the reason, like when you think, okay, well, you're not going to have surgery, that means, or that can kind of indirectly get people to think, hey, it's not as serious as other injuries, and therefore she'll be back relatively soon. Admittedly, like that's what I thought. I was like, oh, no surgery. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. She'll be back sooner than later. And now it just, per the news this morning, from the Wrestling Observer, that doesn't seem to be the case. She's not scheduled to return by SummerSlam. She is still rehabbing her injury. But I think the most negative part of the story is that surgery is still on the table. Like, it's still a potential. And that would be like your devastating like knockout blow, I think, to this whole thing, because that would put you on the shelf for even longer than you already would be. And you obviously you never want to go under the knife. Like, that's not something that you want to do. So you try to do anything possible to avoid that. But if that does become an inevitability, you've tacked on 3 extra months to her recovery. At least that wouldn't have had to be there if you just opted for surgery right away. So, there can be some levels of regret, as far as that goes. So we'll have to see what happens. Like, my question to you guys is, how do you think this impacts the storyline that's going on right now on television with Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day? I mean, a lot of what they're doing right now with that story and with that angle is kind of predicated on Rhea, like Dom and Liv becoming an item or teasing becoming an item. Like, that works in and of itself. We talked about that earlier this week on the show, but it also works even better with Rhea looming in the background as like a potential character to return and just whip everybody straight that's involved in the story. Like, that's a key element here, right? So to not have that instantly, I think, changes how you go about presenting, the Liv and Dom storyline, and maybe even where they land. Like, I think because Rhea's not going to be back for a little while here, you can take your time and tell the story. You can take your time, and you don't have to rush Dom falling for Liv as quick as he might if Rhea was going to get back for SummerSlam. You can play that out longer. Or you can take it a different direction and go, no, you know what we want to do? We want to like get Rhea and Liv together so that they have a long run with one another in a relationship, so that when Rhea comes back, it's even more impactful, and Liv and Dom can be even more threatening. So you could play it that way too. So I don't necessarily think that Rhea. I mean, look, Rhea's a big star, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't think that this news really has to change what they do on television. I think they can just go with it and go with it in a different direction. Like, know that if they're going to have more time to build whatever kind of relationship Liv and Dom have, continue getting heat with that and onward and upward. You go from there. So I think that's the likely the way that they decide to take this thing. As far as Rhea goes, I mean, man, it's just a bummer. There's not another really good way to say that. It's a bummer story. She has all this momentum. She's coming out of a WrestleMania win over Becky Lynch, and the tidal wave of fan connection is with her. She's got the crowd reaction on her side. She's got a cool factor that not a lot of people in wrestling at all have. And then it's just it has to get halted because of injury, and so it's a bummer. She just had this kind of like flurry of momentum, and now it has to wait. And look, it's not there are worse things, right? you without question, and she's going to be back, and she's going to be able to have her run. And I think to an extent, like, this absence is going to make the audience just really want her to come back. And I think that reaction and that connection with her will be even bigger when she comes back. That's what I think. It doesn't always end up that way, though. Things change. Ask Becky Lynch. Things change. Another star pops up here, another star pops up there, and all of a sudden, you're not as cool as you were when you left. And I don't think that's what's going to happen with Rhea here. I think she's going to be back soon enough where, she's going to have considerable impact on the product. And she's going to have this run as a top baby face. But it's just a bummer that it kind of is going down the way that it is. Andrew with a couple chats here says they just keep building the story until Rhea comes back and whoops both their asses. We love mommy at OTS. Thanks, Andrew. Andrew also says that, hey, Rhea's larger than the Judgment Day and the face of women's wrestling. She's incredibly talented and unique. Needs to nurture her run. Yeah, they do need to. They need to nurture that run, but she's got to be there for it. The best thing that they can do for Rhea right now, the best thing that they can do for her. Oh, sorry about the bump there, guys. The best thing they can do for Rhea Ripley in her absence is focus on building a hot top heel champion in Liv Morgan. I mean, say what you want about Liv Morgan. You believe in her. You don't believe in her. She should be the person getting this push, or she shouldn't. Whatever. In the end, this push of Liv Morgan really is to serve Rhea. You want to have a sizzling hot heel ready for Rhea Ripley when she comes back. Okay, it's not going to be at SummerSlam. That's the news we're talking about here. But what is it going to be? Is it going to be Survivor Series? Is it going to be the Royal Rumble? Hell, is it going to be WrestleMania? Who knows? But if you're WWE and you're Paul Levesque, you have to have a hot heel ready. And to me, that is the role that Liv Morgan is playing right now. And so far, she's playing it pretty good. You can check yesterday's episode on that. Earlier in the week, we talked a lot about Liv Morgan right here at 1TS Daily. And definitely check that out. Earlier episodes this week. We spent a lot of time on Liv and a lot of time on Dominic too. So a lot of Rhea, Dom, Liv, love triangle stuff here on 1TS Daily this week, excuse me. Liam's jumping in with another question. Do you think when she returns, she could be done with the Judgment Day? Will the Judgment Day be together when she returns? Yeah, that's the question, right? I think she's done with the Judgment Day one way or the other. That's my take on that question, to answer it straight up. For one of two reasons. One being, it'll already be gone because Liv Morgan kind of destroyed it along with Dominic Mysterio from the inside out, right? And then, or the other scenario is, they're heels. And so she just doesn't associate with them anymore for whatever reason. Either they've sided with Liv and Dominic and they're feuding with Damian Priest, or they're just, a totally different group by the time she comes back. And I lean that way, where I think that she comes back and she's a partner to Damian, kind of as the balancing force of the other side of the Judgment Day. I think that plays. So no, I don't think she's going to be in Judgment Day when she gets back. And I think Judgment Day is going to be essentially finished as we know it right now by the time she comes back. Thanks a bunch, Liam. Eddie, morning. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you being here. We're live, guys, every single day, Monday through Friday, 11 Eastern, 10 Central, right here, talking wrestling, talking the news of the week, and talking with you. So definitely get your comments in, get your thoughts in if you're listening live. Super chats are available, folks. If you're able to make a contribution to the show here and to the One True Sport cause, we appreciate it. Helps out the show, helps out us as an organization. Thanks so much. And thanks, Eddie. Glad you're here, man. All right, let's move on here and quickly look at SmackDown tonight. They have a handful of different segments that they're promoting for tonight's show. We have Johnny Gargano versus Grayson Waller, Apollo Crews versus Angel Garza. Jade Cargill is going to be in action against Indy Hartwell. They're promoting an appearance from Cody Rhodes. And then Solo Sikoa is going to anoint Tongaloa into the bloodline officially. So, not a ton on this show from a match perspective. That's supremely intriguing. I mean, Gargano and Waller will be a good match for sure. That's going to further, the tag team feud that's going on SmackDown. Jade Cargill, really interested to see what kind of action she gets with Indy Hartwell. Is it kind of more of a squash, or will she get more time to actually, work a match and sell and that kind of thing? So we'll get to see kind of where she's at in her development. The Cody Rhodes segment is the big one. Obviously, him and AJ Styles had the big angle coming out of SmackDown last week. Cody's got to address that. On the first episode of 1TS Daily, we talked about that angle, the retirement angle with AJ Styles, and how Cody Rhodes responds to that now is important because he looked a little silly out there last week. That was my argument anyway, that like, hey, how did you not see this coming, Cody? Everyone else saw it coming. How did you not see this happening in front of your eyes? Cody, I think in this appearance, whatever it is, whether it's a backstage promo or an in-ring promo or what have you, he's got to make the case and make himself look good for kind of losing, his you're acting too gullible. Let's say that. That was kind of the word that I used. Like, he was a little too gullible. And you don't want that out of your top babyface. You want to have your babyface be on the up and up and in tune with what's going on and in touch with what's going on. And Cody just wasn't that in this segment. So, we'll have to watch him. But this promo is important. It's important for him to hit a home run. And then the Solo Sikoa, Tonga Loa stuff, like this is just more bloodline storylines, another chapter in what they're doing there. Real interesting to follow this angle. I mean, clearly it's going to mark the return of Roman Reigns. He's going to come back to a hero's welcome. Like, that's going to be a thing. That is going to be a thing. I think that's going to move the needle numbers wise in a really, really significant way when that happens. And I think The Rock is going to be involved. So, this is not going to be like a signature chapter in the story, but it is a chapter in the story. So if you're, following bloodline stuff, like, this will be important to see what Solo Sikoa says, how he says it, and how Paul Heyman reacts in particular, because that's been the game. Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman. Yeah, Andrew jumping in the chat here saying the Civil War is just getting started. Yeah, it is. It's going to be fun to watch it play out once the big players come back. I mean, you need Rock and you need Roman and you need the Usos involved to really make this thing tick. But they've got the story on a slow burn, on purpose. They've got it on a slow, just kind of simmer right now because they know they're not going to have these guys back. And so it doesn't make any sense to rush into anything. But once everybody comes back, like I see this as a potential like massive War Games match, for Survivor Series. And I mean, especially if Rock can be in it, that makes it pretty darn huge. Eddie jumping in here saying, can't wait for Jacob Fatu's debut. That will be fun to see if and when he debuts for WWE. He's a perfect kind of component and role player for the story. And so we'll have to see. Yeah, Eddie, I see your other note here. I'm going to flash it up here. I would have Jacob with Jimmy and Jay. That, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, there's no doubt. But I think Jacob Fatu gives like the new bloodline, the Solo Sikoa bloodline, a kind of like this unhinged type character. Like Tama Tonga is very calm, cool, calculated. And Jacob Fatu just plays just this aggressive heel so well. And I think that would complement that group really, really in a really, really strong way. So I think you're going to see him join the other side, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. And you definitely have to, keep tuned here and we'll keep debating, discussing to see where that goes. If he does debut, we'll have to see. We will have to see. All right, so that's SmackDown. The other show that's this weekend, that's a pretty big, that's turned into a pretty big show, is NXT Battleground. So let's preview that really quick. I need to pull up the old card here. I forgot to do that before, so give me a second here to do that. Who's watching NXT Battleground? I want to get a kind of a running poll in our chat here. So just thumbs up, thumbs down if you're watching. If you're going to be watching NXT Battleground over the weekend. It's an interesting card. It's a card that has elements of it that I think are a home run. And then it has elements of it that I think are like, oh boy, like this could be this could be a disaster, right? Like I think like both angles are on the table. So this is how the card runs down. This is how it shakes out. We got Trick Williams versus Ethan Page for the NXT Championship. We have the WWE NXT Women's North American Championship ladder match. This is to crown the first ever NXT Women's North American Champion. It's Sol Ruca versus Lash Legend versus Jada Parker versus Fallon Henley versus Michin versus Kalani Jordan. And we got the NXT North American Championship, the men's NXT North American Championship. Obafemi defending against Joe Coffey and Wes Lee in a triple threat. We've got NXT Underground, Shayna Baszler versus Lola Vice. We've got Roxanne Perez defending her NXT Women's Championship against Jordan Grace. And then the tag team championships are on the line. Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. So that's the lineup. The match that everybody's looking forward to most, based on what I've seen and based on interactions that I've had, is Jordan Grace versus Roxanne Perez. Like that to me is your main event of the show. That's the match. That's why you watch the show, is for that match. Not to say there's not other good stuff on there. I think there is, but that's the novelty. I mean, Jordan Grace coming in at excuse me, and having a singles match with your NXT Women's Champion with the title on the line. That's very that's very buzzworthy, if you will. And NXT did some really good numbers this week with Jordan Grace on the show. So clearly there's an intrigue as to how she specifically fits into NXT and the NXT ecosystem. And I think we're on track to have a really good match here. I mean, Roxanne Perez is a good worker. So is Jordan Grace. It's going to be interesting to see how they work the size differential between the two, because Roxanne Perez is the heel and Jordan Grace is like just so much bigger than her, and it's so noticeable. And she's just so impressive with her athleticism. So I think it'll be fun to watch them work that out, but I think they can do it. I mean, I think both women are just strong workers, and this is going to be compelling. Ordinarily, I would say, look, Roxanne Perez is winning this match. I mean, Jordan Grace is a TNA star. She's coming in, but she's going to do the job. I'm not so sure. I'm going to make a pick. I'm going to say Roxanne Perez, but I don't think it's as definitive as it was a week ago, based on what we saw this week on TV. I mean, Jordan Grace was shown kind of interacting with other NXT stars. They had no physicality between the other. You'd think that if Jordan Grace was going to do the favors for Roxanne Perez, that, she'd get some type of physical offense in to make her look like a threat going into the match on Sunday. But they didn't go that route. They didn't touch. They kept that open-ended and ambiguous. And I think it's more effective that way, because now you really don't know or don't have any strong feelings one way or the other who's going to win. That's good. I think it's still going to be Roxanne Perez, but willing to see it play out. Eddie saying here, any chance they put the belt on Grace? Yeah, there's a chance. I don't know how much of a chance, but there's definitely a chance. I think that they like Jordan Grace, and she moves some numbers. That's important. That is important. In WWE, like you want, like so much of their money is tied up in television deals, and so you want people watching. And I think obviously the novelty of Jordan Grace as TNA Knockouts champion in NXT will wear off at some point. But do you keep up those numbers if she's champion? We'll have to see. I'm still taking Roxanne Perez, though, Eddie, for sure. Liam, where do I see the NXT TNA crossover going? I think they're going to send somebody back at some point. Brooks Jensen has been doing some kind of like teasing of heading to TNA. So maybe he's a guy that goes over there. I think somebody like Charlie Dempsey could make an appearance over there and work and lose to somebody in TNA. I don't think it's going to be anybody significant. I don't think we're going to see Roxanne Perez, for example, get dropped into to TNA. But I think that they like the partnership. I think TNA likes the exposure. I think WWE and NXT like to be cool and like to open up the forbidden door, so to speak, and like to, play to that segment of the pro wrestling audience. That's important to them. That's important for like them as a brand of booker, that they're willing to do that where somebody like Vince McMahon wasn't. I think that's important, and I think that's part of the reason why this exists. All right, so also on the show, the car crash kind of match is that NXT North American Championship ladder match. Sol Ruca, Lash Legend, Jada Parker, Fallon Henley, Michin, Kalani Jordan. There's a lot of new talent in that match. And on one hand, you look at that and you go, all right, all these women are going to be looking to shine, and this match is going to be great because of it. But Michin is the only veteran of the match. And so a lot can go wrong in ladder matches. So I'm really, surely they've like rehearsed this stuff, of course, but I'm interested to see how these women do. This is a big opportunity for like the next crop of women's talent in WWE to step up and show what they got. And I think Jada Parker is walking away with the NXT North American Championship. She's been protected in the booking. She's a heel, so babyfaces can chase her down. And frankly, she just has shown the most potential out of anybody in this match. So I think she deserves it from that perspective. Obafemi versus Joe Coffey versus Wes Lee, triple threat. I mean, this is Obafemi's match to win. It's another pay-per-view triple threat for Obafemi. I'm not sure I like that strategy. Just do Obafemi versus Wes Lee. Give Obafemi and Wes Lee, singles match. Like this adding Joe Coffey to the mix here was just kind of like, it is what it is. I think he's there to do the job. NXT Underground, Shayna Baszler versus Lola Vice. No ropes, just fighting. Lola Vice is going to win this one. You can mark my words on that. We'll see what they do. The Lola Vice Natalya NXT Underground match was good. One of the better Underground style matches. So I think that this has potential, especially with Shayna Baszler in there. But Lola Vice's character is still all over the place. So it's like, okay, are you a dancer or are you a fighter? Like there's a lot of range in there. And so I think she's got to kind of pick one. And she does really well when she presents as this like MMA fighter. So I hope they can find that tone and stay there. That'd be ideal. But she's going to take the win here. Nathan Frazier and Axiom against the OC. I can't in my right mind pick the OC to win anything at this point in time. So Frazier and Axiom to retain the titles there. And then the World Championship, the NXT Championship, Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. Ethan Page had a nice showing this week on NXT. We talked about that yesterday on the show, or 2 days ago on the show. Nice showing. He had a lot of attitude. He cut a good promo. It's still not his time. I mean, Trick Williams is going to retain the title here. I mean, and Ethan Page is a good notch on the belt for Trick. So this is a fine NXT Championship match to have on the show, especially a show that has another major world title match on it with Roxanne Perez and Jordynne Grace. So this doesn't have to deliver and carry the entire show. But either way, Trick Williams wins. We'll talk about the outcome of this on Monday's 1TS Daily. So keep it tuned there for a bit of a NXT Battleground recap, which we'll do on Monday. All right, time for 1TS Daily Nuggets for 6/7/2024. First one, we got two today. Chad Gable, hot free agents. Both AEW and WWE are interested per the Wrestling Observer newsletter. His contract expires this week. So who's going to get the job done? Is WWE going to be able to sign him? I read the tea leaves, if you will, and he's staying in WWE. I mean, right? I mean, not that he can't have good matches with guys in AEW. I think he definitely can. There's a lot of fresh matchups for him to have there. But I think he's a WWE guy. I think he's a guy that you look at when his wrestling days are done, could easily be, in the office as a producer or as a trainer, somebody like that. I just think he's a WWE guy. So, unless AEW offers him a ton of money, which I wouldn't do because I don't know that he's that type of free agent. It's just not worth it. So I think he stays in WWE. Also, and lastly, did Chalkline tease a return date for CM Punk? Kind of. They kind of did. They have a brand new piece of merch out for CM Punk that is a countdown to SummerSlam. Now, I wonder why that would be. Interesting to say the least. That is the potential return date. Obviously, that's not official, but it's just reading the tea leaves and looking at, hey, if you've got a piece of merch, if you got a piece of merch out, then why do you have that piece of merch out, and why are you counting down to SummerSlam? It'd be pretty bad if people bought a CM Punk. This merch is like a pair of shorts. If people bought the shorts, and then he doesn't return to SummerSlam, it's like, boy, that's an ultimate miss. So I would read into this. I would read into it. I think that there is some smoke coming from this fire. We may see CM Punk back for SummerSlam. That getting leaked out there makes the finish to the title match at Clash at the Castle, Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest, more up in the air. Because are they going to hotshot the title to Priest only to have a title match with Punk? I guess Drew McIntyre could win that match, but I think it leaves open different possibilities if you think that Punk's coming back for a run this summer. So interesting timing. I don't think it's necessarily on accident, but I would read into it if I were you. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody who joined live. Thanks to Liam. Thanks to Eddie. Thanks to Andrew. Everybody else in the chat. Thanks to everybody who watched us on YouTube and everybody who watched on Twitter. Appreciate you. We won't be here Saturday or Sunday, but we'll be back Monday with another episode of 1TS Daily, talking about the weekend news in professional wrestling. It's been such a fun week, you guys. It really has. Like the opportunity to do the show was wonderful, and it's lived up to my expectations, and I thank all you for that. So keep coming back. We're gonna have some fun on this show, and I will see you all on Monday. Later. Have a good weekend.